Well, our guest today is all about Christians supporting Israel and building relationships between Christians and Jews in Israel and around the world.
They have a strong desire to see Christians and Jews working side by side for better understanding and a more secure Israel. We're joined today by Rebecca Brimmer. She is the International President and CEO of Bridges for Peace. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
You know, when you talk about Bridges for Peace, I think a lot of people would say, okay, that's probably between Palestinian and Israel's or the Arab states surrounding Israel, but actually it has nothing to do with that, does it?
Not really, no. What we're all about is to help Christians understand about Israel and the Jewish people and why it's important to God, and then to help the Jewish people understand that there are Christians today that want to bless them, that want them to know that we believe that God has a great plan for them. Unfortunately, you know, for centuries, people who called themselves Christians persecuted Jewish people.
Yeah.
And they have a very negative, emotive response to Christians because of that. And we're trying to change all that.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I've had the privilege of being to Israel 39 times so far. And at first, they're a little bit, they call them sabras, right?
Yes.
And sabra it's a fruit of some kind where it's kind of prickly on the outside.
Cactus.
Yeah, and soft on
Yes.
the inside. And they're always a little prickly at first, saying, why are you here? What do you want from us? And you say you're a Christian, and they kind of get a little defensive about it
That's
until
right.
they see your actions speaking louder than your words. And that's when I find that their hearts begin
Right.
to change.
We had a Jewish woman say to one of my colleagues one time, said, oh, what do you at Bridges for Peace, what do you believe? And then she almost swallowed her words. And she says, no, don't tell me what you believe. She says, I'll follow you around for 2 weeks, and then I'll tell you what you believe.
And did she?
Yes, she did. So
Yeah, there's a really negative
actions are
view.
important.
Oh, absolutely. You're 100% right. You know, and I find that there's a real negative view sometimes of Christians when they come to Israel. I started saying when I went to Israel, I'm a disciple of the rabbi named Yeshua.
Okay.
And when they hear his name in their language, the defenses dropped a little bit. And I don't know how you find it, but when you tell people you're a Christian, is there a reaction at first?
Yes, often
Yeah.
there is. Although in recent years it has gotten better. 27 years ago when my husband and I moved to Israel, the reaction to learning that we were Christians was often very negative. And in fact, I had an Orthodox woman spit on me one time when she found out, you know. Now that was an isolated experience, thank God.
Of course.
But a lot of this comes from, and we should give people, I think, you know, an idea of where it's coming from, that Hitler represented himself as a Christian, and many Jews
Right.
believe that Hitler was a Christian who killed their people.
You know, I just did a course with an Orthodox Jewish professor, and she brought out something I didn't know before, and that was that 98% of Germans identified as Christians at the time of the Holocaust. So you can understand why Jewish people might look at it as a Christian phenomena. Most of the Nazis were members of the church, and the Catholic and the Lutheran churches in Germany, they did not excommunicate people. So it's a very, very hard, painful thing. And what is the expiration date on extreme pain? You know, when 1/3 of all your people are killed in a 6-year span of time, and you think Christians did it to you?
Systematically targeted.
Yeah, how long does it take to get over that? Well, I'm from the United States, and I can tell you our country hasn't gotten over the pain of slavery. And that's over 150 years ago.
So you say things are changing on the ground. Why are they changing? Did you have
Well,
any
there's
idea?
people like us and other Christians that have come along and said, look, we're just going to love you. We believe God loves you, and we're going to love you. We're going to help you. We're going to help your people come back from all over the world. We're going to feed you. We give 22,000 people food every month with no strings attached.
Unbelievable.
But what happened is a number of years ago, the Knesset, Israel's parliament, decided to recognize Christian support of Israel. And they formed a caucus called the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus.
That's right.
And in since 2004, when that started, a lot of publicity happened around that. And so reporters in Israel and the news started covering this phenomena, which was unknown in Israel basically, that Christians are standing with Israel. And because of that, there's been a change. There's been an evolving change where I'm just as likely now when I tell someone I'm a Christian to get, oh, we've heard about you. We've heard that maybe you're our only friends in the world. Thank you. So there's a shift. And so I really feel really warm about that because we've invested so many years in bringing about a shift in attitude.
That's beautiful. You know, you talked about how much food that you give away.
Yeah.
That might surprise some of our viewers, because I think there's this idea that Israel is a very prosperous, I mean, it's a first world nation.
Right.
But there is poverty in Israel. I mean, I remember
Right.
doing or reading a study that 70% of Holocaust survivors were living below the poverty line. So
Right.
there is poverty, there is
Yes,
hard
there
times
is.
in Israel.
And a lot of them are, as you said, Holocaust survivors who've never really managed, immigrants, even immigrants going back 2 and 3 generations who didn't quite assimilate, didn't quite make it. But I would say the vast majority of the people receiving food from us fall in those buckets. A lot of new immigrants. And you know,
Okay.
Israel has a huge defense budget because of the crisis that they've faced since their inception.
Absolutely.
And they've also absorbed millions of people. So it's a big strain on a country. So even though God has blessed Israel and it has become a prosperous country, it takes time for the new immigrants to get to the place where they're self-sufficient.
And you know, Israel has always been under threat from the nations surrounding it. Many of them don't want Israel to even exist on the face of the earth.
That's right.
But it seems like the rhetoric is getting more and more and more, like things are heating up. Do you see that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How do you live in a nation where every day your extermination is threatened?
You know, it's amazing how much peace God gives you, because
Yeah.
I don't feel afraid. I'm more afraid in the United States than I am in Israel, because we have good security. Every time we go into the mall, someone
right.
looks in our bags. We go through a metal detector. You know, this is kind of funny, but I went into a Walmart store a couple of years ago in Missouri, and there was this lady standing by the door, and I just opened my bag, just like normal, to the lady in the Walmart store, and she looked at me like I was some kind of crazy person, like, why are you opening your bag? And only then did I realize that she was just there to say hello, or maybe to make sure I didn't steal something. But we
Yeah.
have great security in Israel. However, I will say that there are times when we go through real crisis, when we really have to call out to the Lord for that peace that passes understanding.
Yeah, I mean, the peace you're talking about, it's very palatable when you're in Israel. I've been there just months after a terrorist attack, and let's say there was a cafe on Ben Yehuda Street that was blown up or something.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, like, as North Americans, we probably would be afraid to go to that area, but the moment the restaurant is
Yeah,
open,
that's right.
it is packed. People are having
right.
lattes and cappuccinos, and a Jewish
That's
friend of
right.
mine said to me, he goes, if we can't live free in our country, then we would rather die here than live as, live as cowards or live in fear.
Right. Well, I have a friend who's friends with the mayor of Jerusalem, and he told me that he was in his office and when the mayor of Chicago was visiting him, and the mayor of Chicago asked him about the murder rate in Jerusalem. And the mayor of Jerusalem said, we had 2 murders last year. And
Wow.
the mayor of Chicago said, you must have misunderstood my question. He said we had, and he named how many hundreds of murders there had been in Chicago that year. And Nir Barkat said, no, we had 2 murders, and it was 2014. He had 2 murders in 2014, and that includes terrorism. So,
Wow.
so in many ways, we have very little crime. You don't see pictures of children on the walls of missing kids or on milk cartons like we used to have in the U.S. But because people watch out for each other and they care about each other, we do have this unfortunate thing of terrorism.
Yeah,
But statistically, we're actually probably safer than we are in a lot of Western cities.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because sometimes here in the West, we see the media and what's, being covered and exposed over in the Middle East. And it does seem to be a little unbalanced because, I mean, you live there, I've been there so many times, and I have Jewish friends who are great friends with Arabs and Palestinians and vice
We are
versa.
too.
They make fun of each other, they laugh, they eat on the beach together. I think for some reason the media wants to show us these negative images, but you live there. What's life like on a daily basis in Israel? You live in Jerusalem for part of the time?
Yes, well, I have an unusual situation. We have offices both in the very north in Carmiel and in Jerusalem, so I split my time between the 2 areas. So I'm actually, half of the time I'm 14 miles south of the Lebanon border.
Yeah, way up there.
Way up there, and the rest of the time I'm in Jerusalem. So, it's normal for me now. I'm no longer in a honeymoon situation with Israel. I'm in a real marriage, but it's a good marriage,
Yeah.
And I see the beauty in Israel. I see the problems. And God sent us there to be part of a healing agent, to heal ancient wounds, and that's why I call myself a Christian. because I am trying to heal wounds caused by Christians, or at least perceived as being caused by Christians. I want with everything in me to see the Jewish people free from the pain caused to them by so many years of persecution. You know, over and over again in conversations with Jewish people, they'll say something like, do you think that we killed Jesus? And
Wow.
it's really, really a difficult thing. A head of a Jewish community in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, came up to us after a meeting and said, the hardest thing that we deal with is the accusation that we killed Jesus. And so we deal with things like, that's a deep pain. That goes back 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And so we say, of course we don't. Why, Jesus himself said, I lay my
right.
life
No one
down.
takes
No one takes it from me. And as Christians, of course, don't we think that his death on the cross was the greatest thing for us that ever happened? So how then can we blame somebody for something that was the plan of God for the redemption of the world? You know, so many times the Lord gives us opportunities to say, we're sorry that you were accused of that through the centuries. That was not right. So many ways that the Lord gives us to show his love and grace to people who haven't experienced it from Christians before.
Okay, so we only have a minute or so left here. What do you want the church in the West to know about Bridges for Peace and what you're doing in Israel?
Right. So I believe that we're changing the future. You know, we can't change the past. We can't take away all that negativity. We can't take away the Holocaust, but we can make a difference in the future, a future where the one new man is possible, the future where Jews and Christians can be, again, joined together with God's plans for both of us in the future. And I believe that as Christians, we should care about the family of Jesus, the natural family of Jesus. So I encourage Christians everywhere, pray for Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and to pray for our activities, because our Christian volunteers are making a difference in people's lives.
I love that.
Amen.
Building bridges. Is there a land in the world that is needed more than the land of Israel? Thank you so much for all that you're doing and for representing us well. I think breaking down those barriers is so important.
Well, I would also encourage them to come to our website. So it's www.bridgesforpeace.com. We have a lot of information that will help.
Well, maybe one day they can go to Israel themselves and see you in Jerusalem.
Maybe they'll even come with you.
You never know. You never know. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being with us, and we'll be right back.